you're running a company, what do you want? Obedient workers. You want people whose first loyalty is to you, who show up on Monday morning, who work through the weekend, who give you their all, who give you their lives. And in return, you give them a paycheck, but you give them no loyalty and no promise of long-term commitment. It's a continuous one-night stand. You're just hooking up. You're being used. That's true. Contrast that with the relationship you have with the people you love, your best friends, your family, the people with whom you have like sincere, intimate, personal relationships. They're there for you no matter what. And when you get the diagnosis or you get laid off from your job or when things turn bad, when you have to wear a mask as you ride your bike or the world falls apart, those are the people who are there for you. Those are the people. You're freaking me out, dude. This man's whispering sweet nothings to me from the front row. Those are the people who care about you, who actually care about you. They're not the ones who are telling you, oh, we really care about you because of the way you look and we're on your side. These are the people who are actually on your side, who are going to loan you money or let you sleep on the couch or talk you through a tragedy in your own life. Those are the relationships that matter. They're the only relationships that matter, and they're almost never the relationship you have with your employer if you work for a huge company. I'm sorry, it's just true. So what you're seeing, and you see it up and down American society, is the triumph of the values of those people over the values that we hold and that made this country great. And if you're wondering why American families are falling apart, and if you're wondering why every directive you hear from Washington divides you from your family, that's why. Because they want your first loyalty to be to them. So the question in a circumstance like this is, what do you do about it? How do you respond to it? And the first thing you need to know is what's actually happening. This is not, your enemy, as horrible as they are, is not some crazed ideologue wearing black spray painting statues. That person is loathsome and should be in jail, trust me. And I call for that nightly. But your actual enemy is the person who's funding him and making that kind of behavior possible, and is doing it for a very specific reason. To tear down the past, to destroy the past. Now, why do they want to destroy the past? Because when you destroy the past, you eliminate all reference points. If you have no idea what came before you, you have no idea what normal is. And you cannot understand the consequences of what's happening now if you can't look to the past and understand the consequences of the same behavior in another time. Right? The root of wisdom is knowing what happened before. I mean, that's the roadmap. So when you destroy that, you have an entire country that is very easily manipulated. Okay? So the first thing to know is that's what's going on. The second thing to know is that small is almost always better than big. That's the truth. The circle of people in your life who care enough about you to help you when things go wrong is really small. There are a lot of people you're friends with on Instagram or Facebook or whatever in the fake digital world that we've been lulled into participating in. But the actual number of people who will take affirmative steps to help you is very, very small. It's not 350 million. That's how many people are in this country. It's not 7 billion. It's like 8. So your loyalty always has to be to them, to your family and your closest friends, above anything else. Period. And anyone who tells you otherwise, anyone who tells you that your real loyalty's got to be to some larger group of people, some political group or some group of people who look like you, give them the middle finger. Those are your enemies. I'm serious. I'm serious. They are trying to destroy the fortifications that will protect you through life, which are the people you love and who love you back. Okay? So that's the first thing to know. Small is always bigger, better. Be distrustful of concentrations of power. They can be easily misused. This is like a basic life point that we seem to have forgotten. They can be easily misused and often are. So if something is enormous, it's a threat to you. Period. Whether it's a giant boulder you're standing under for your Christmas card picture that could topple over and flatten you, or whether it's Google, the largest and most powerful company in human history. Google is a threat to you because it's so powerful. It's a greater threat to you than the US government. It has more power. And it uses it in ways that are hidden, and it is totally unaccountable to you. As frustrating as the federal government can be, and I spend my life raging against it, at least on a theoretical level, you could vote them out. Power from a company like Google is completely resistant to your views. They don't care what you think, and they have no reason to care what you think. Okay? So here's the way I think about it. All this stuff is going on. There's very little of it that we can actually control. Let's just be totally honest about that. And by the way, you should always keep that in mind through life. You have less control than you think you do. You didn't control your birth. You can't add an hour to your life. You just can't. No one can. No one's ever been able to. No one ever will be able to. So if you want to be wise and make clear-headed decisions, just remember there are a lot of things you can't control. Focus on the things that you can control. It's like the famous Niebuhr quote. And the thing that you can control is whether your personal life is happy, productive, and has inherent meaning. Period. And no one wants to say that because it never increases their power to encourage you to have a normal, happy personal life. It never increases their power at all. In fact, it detracts from their power because you're going to wind up finding someone, getting married, having kids, and being more loyal to them than to your political or corporate leaders. And that's why they work against it. In fact, that is the main threat to their power. And if you're wondering why big companies across the country are now offering to freeze the eggs of their female employees, it's not because they're compassionate. It's because they're demanding that you give them the best years of your life to serve them. That you put off the thing that gives our lives meaning above all else, which is passing on your genes, having children, that's the core meaning in life, that you put that off so you can sell more widgets for them and juice the stock price. And in return, you get what? Nothing. They don't know your last name, but they'll freeze your eggs because we're a compassionate, enlightened company. Yeah, no, because they want total control. And it shows you, why are the big companies so in favor of social policy that degrades the family? Pretending that men and women are exactly the same, which they are not. They are not. They are very different, and they need each other. They need each other in order to be whole. That's the truth. They fit together like a jigsaw puzzle, physically and spiritually, for a reason, which is they complement each other. They need each other. We need each other. And anyone who tells you we don't is your enemy. Like, what actually matters? What can you actually control? Very little. And so you should focus on the things you can, and you should recognize what's going on here and who's your friend and who's your enemy. Anyone who encourages you to think for yourself, to be more independent-minded and economically independent, not just have an independent conscience and think whatever you want, but be able to support yourself and your family, anyone who encourages that is your friend. Anyone who tells you, you can't live without me, you need me, you need to be loyal to me, give me your everything, that person is a false god. And do not worship that person. I don't care who it is. It's true. Because there's a reason. There's a reason for that. I look out every night at like 5, I get a cup of coffee, I pad to the kitchen, I get a cup of coffee, then I go back to my bedroom where I have a desk, the dogs are there, my wife's coming in and out, and I start writing the script. Every night, 5 nights a week. And usually around 5:30 when I'm like through the second paragraph, I'm like, man, things are bad. I always have the same thought every night. I'm like, boy, the people who seek the destruction of the things I love, my family, my country, my conscience, the ones who are trying to get me to repeat things that I don't believe, the ones who are forcing me or trying to lie in public, the ones who are getting me to dance like a monkey. I'm serious. Some of the things they ask you to do are so preposterous, the only explanation is they want to see if they can make you do it. No, it's totally true. That's what they're saying. It's all about their power. Like, I wonder if we can get the public to do this. Yeah. Can we get them, not just wear masks in elevators? Fine. Can we get a guy who's on a kayak alone in the middle of the Pacific Ocean to wear a mask? As if he's going to get infected by the seals. Can we get him? Do you think we can? No, we can't make him do that. Come on, are you joking? Oh, yeah, we can. Here's what we'll do. We'll arrest him when he gets back on the beach, and we'll invite a news crew to film it so everyone else will know you better do exactly what they tell you to do or you're going to jail. That's not, and by the way, I'm not minimizing COVID. I'm highlighting what's actually going on, which is a legitimate tragedy leveraged for the personal power of a small group of people. I mean, obviously. So I read just every night, I'm sitting there at my desk writing this stuff, and I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, how many free-minded people are there left, actually? I mean, I do think this. Like, it's kind of dark, but I'm alone, and the dogs never say anything. And I'm like, really, can you win? I don't know. You got to try. You know, you got to get out of the bed in the morning and put your gloves on and go for it, right? You got to tell the truth. But, because by the way, in the end, no amount of money and no amount of praise from the world's dumb people, no amount of fake awards, the stupid little merit badges they give, the Pulitzer Prize, the Nobel Prize, I got a Rhodes Scholarship. Oh, shut up, it doesn't mean anything. I got into Princeton. Oh, be quiet. None of that means anything. And none of that is worth betraying what you know to be true. Like, that is real. None of that. I don't care how much they pay you. I don't care how many of your friends on Facebook think it's cool for you to repeat the lyrics to their songs when you don't believe them. I don't care. It is not worth it. Never betray your conscience. And by the way, you don't have to agree with me. Maybe you sincerely disagree with me, and I have friends who do, sincerely. But every person I love and talk to and take seriously is a person of principle who doesn't lie about what he or she believes. Period. Period. That is essential. But let's say, even if you do that, and you are true to yourself and what you believe, to your conscience and your God, and to the ones you love, they win anyway. Like, maybe they continue to get more powerful. And maybe the pizza place doesn't come back, and maybe in the end, Jeff Bezos sells you your pizza. It doesn't taste quite as good, but he runs the pizza business now and everything else. What if that happens? The truth is, you're still in charge of what goes on in your head, and you're still in charge of the relationships with the people you love. But even if I'm living in a double-wide trailer in a state I've never been to, in the middle of a cornfield, living on Social Security, I'm still going to be living with my wife, and my kids are still going to love me, and I mean it. All that matters is your family. That's it. Do I end up building a life like the ones that my parents had? How do I, in a world that clearly hates me and my values, how do I succeed? And this is something that, I think about a lot just because I have all these kids and because, I was a young person. And there's a lot of anxiety in the heart of every 22-year-old because you got to kind of figure out how to live in a society that you don't control, and you have to prove yourself. And I guess my one piece of advice would be, if you can just ignore the standards that they set, you don't have to participate in the society that people who hate you and your values created. That's the truth. I never thought I'd be standing on a stage suggesting that people opt out of the popular society, but that is exactly what I'm suggesting. I mean it. One of the big lies of higher education is you can go to school and learn to do something that you have no basic aptitude in. That's a total lie. You could send me to 20 years of MIT. I would never understand physics. I just wouldn't. I can't do math. I'm dyslexic. Done. Do the thing for which you're naturally suited. Pay attention to who you are. Do the thing that you are naturally good at, that you love without being prompted, that you would do for free. That's totally true. Don't lie to yourself. The biggest lie is, you can be whatever you want to be. What? No, you can't. You can take the skills that God gave you and you can use them to maximum effect. That's true. The only way we're going to live in a free country is if the people who live in the country act like it's a free country. That's the truth. It is the truth. Only you can be free and make yourself free. And the only way you do that is by living as a free person, period. And if you have to take less money or move to some place you've never been before in order to do that, you should do that. Don't play along to the life is short thing. Like, life is way too short to pretend you think something you don't. Like, what's the advantage in that? Sucking up to the mob and being like, oh, really, I'm on your side, spare me. They're going to eat you in the end anyway. Be a man, tell the truth. But I would say this, if you want to change things, if you really want to change things, that's honestly what it takes. It does. It doesn't take violence. It doesn't even take voting most of the time. We don't get to vote that much, once every 2 years mostly. What it really takes is just small acts of personal courage and conviction. Like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going along with that. I don't need to get in your face. I don't need to give you some long, I talk to people all the time who are like, well, I would speak up, but I'm not, I don't know the issues very well, or I'm not super articulate. Fine, that's okay. But it doesn't take some long soliloquy. You don't have to stand on a desk and be like, 7 years ago. You don't have to do that. Often it's enough of like, no, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I just don't believe that, and I'm not going to pretend that I do. That's all it takes. And you don't need to be confrontational about it. You don't need to be a jerk or be loud. Some of the most powerful examples through history, which I know you're very familiar with, have been quiet people who just refuse to obey at a certain point because it's too much. That was certainly true in the early church. It was true in the best parts of the civil rights movement. It's always been true. Like, the people with deep moral courage don't need to call too much attention to themselves. They just need to stop obeying. And so that's kind of what I was getting at in a not very articulate way when I said, well, maybe you need to opt out and go do your own thing. Honestly, I think it's worth it. If you look ahead in your life and you decide what I really want to have is a stable family, and that's the only thing that's worth having, in my opinion. I know a lot of rich people, a lot, and I've never met one who's like, I really got happy when I got rich. Like, it really brought joy to my life. I've never met one person who said that. Better than being poor. Being poor will make you unhappy. There's no doubt about that. I'm not sort of romanticizing poverty. But I know for a fact that getting rich will not, it won't ring your bell. I'm sorry, it just won't. And no person who's ever gotten rich will ever tell you otherwise. Not one person. So the only thing that makes you happy is a happy family. That's it. And that's just true. This is not, Christian evangelism. It's just like fact-based social science. And so if you really believe that, then you need to work toward that goal without being distracted by it. Any other thing that gets in your way. Like, anything that prevents me from, at the end of the day, having a happy family and like kids who love me and a spouse who loves me, like, who doesn't want that? Everybody wants that. And we live in a world where it's like, no, it's kind of embarrassing to raise your own kids. Like, what do you do? You're not working? If you actually talk to people, and there are surveys on this, like, what do people really want? They kind of want to raise their own kids, actually. They don't want to hire someone from a faraway country. They want to raise their own kids. Like, why is that? That's like the most natural thing there is. Like, why wouldn't they want that? And guess who doesn't want you to raise your own kids? The people who are living off of your labor. The people who think you should be at work, making widgets to help the stock price. Like, they're not in it. Why? They don't care about your kids. By the way, their spouses are home raising their kids because they can afford it. They can do whatever they want. But they don't want you to. Oh, I get it. You're working against the happiness of my family and the future of my children. So you're my enemy, actually. You're my enemy. How else do you describe that? You're my enemy. You're working to hurt my family? You're making it impossible for me to raise my own children? What does it take? That's like a spiritual home invasion. That's like such an act of hostility. Nothing else comes close to that. Calling me mean names? I don't care. Keeping me from raising my own kids? Like, that's a basic violation. There's nothing more basic than that. So if you really believe that, then you should just take out all the stops and just try and live it. I mean it. And you'll win in the end. Thank you for having me.